Season 6 of The Chosen opens like a storm. Quiet at first, but building with every moment until you can feel the weight of what's coming. Episode 1 doesn't just continue the story, it shakes it, it tests it, and it reminds us that the journey ahead is going to be painful. The first episode begins not with comfort, but with tension. We see the disciples in a state of unease. They are tired, divided in thought, and quietly struggling with the growing pressure of following Jesus as his mission becomes larger than life. The opening scenes give us a glimpse of their humanity, their doubts, their weariness, and their desperate attempt to hold on to faith even when the road feels darker than ever. Jesus enters the picture not with grandeur, but with calm authority. His presence is steady, yet there is a weight in his eyes that tells us he knows what lies ahead. This is not the same carefree journey we saw in earlier seasons. There is urgency now. Every word, every gesture feels loaded with meaning. Episode 1 makes it clear. Time is running short, and the stakes are rising. As the disciples interact, we see cracks beginning to form. Some argue over what the mission really means. Others wrestle with fear of the future. There is love among them, yes, but also frustration and fear. This episode doesn't shy away from showing the cost of discipleship. The road with Jesus is beautiful, but it is not easy. And as they move closer to Jerusalem, the weight of prophecy hangs over them all. The episode's middle section shifts toward key encounters. Jesus speaks words that bring comfort, but he also delivers challenges that cut deep. He asks for faith that is unshakable, even when everything seems impossible. For the disciples, this is not just about following him physically. It's about surrendering their entire lives, even when they do not fully understand the path he is leading them on. The ending leaves us with a sense of quiet dread mixed with hope. The disciples know something is coming, though they cannot name it. Jesus knows exactly what is coming, and yet he walks forward without hesitation. The episode closes on a moment of silence, a stillness that carries more weight than words. It is the calm before the storm, and the audience is left holding its breath, ready or not, for what Season 6 is about to deliver. Powerful and unforgettable. If Episode 1 is the opening of a storm, then the disciples are the branches caught in the wind, bending, trembling, but still holding on. This episode doesn't just show us what they do, it shows us who they are becoming. Each character carries a shadow of doubt or a spark of hope, and together they form a picture of fragile humanity walking alongside divinity. Peter, always the loudest voice in the group, reveals more than just boldness this time. His confidence begins to sound like a shield, a way to cover his fear. We sense he knows the weight of his loyalty will be tested soon, and that fear creeps into his words even when he tries to stand tall. His arc in this episode whispers of what is coming. His strength will not be enough, and he knows it deep inside. Mary Magdalene carries her faith quietly, but her silence speaks louder than anyone's shouting. She looks at Jesus with a gaze that mixes love and sorrow, almost as if she already senses the pain that is ahead. Her journey has always been about redemption, but now it is about endurance. Can she hold to her faith when the world around her begins to crumble? That is the question. Episode 1 plants in our hearts. Thomas, torn between faith and logic, gives us a voice that feels painfully relatable. His questions are not born from rebellion, but from an aching need to understand. In every scene, he reminds us of the tension between belief and doubt. His arc is a mirror for the audience, a reminder that following faith does not erase human confusion. Even the smaller interactions carry weight. James the Greater shows hints of weariness. Andrew struggles with restlessness, and John, the one closest to Jesus, watches with eyes wide open, as though he knows every moment matters more than the last. These glimpses of their personalities are not filler. They are seeds planted, seeds that will bloom into heartbreak, sacrifice, and unshakable testimony. And then there is Jesus. His character in this episode is both familiar and strangely distant. He is with them, yet above them. His words are filled with love, but his eyes tell us he sees further than anyone else. Where the disciples wrestle with the present, He is already walking toward the cross. His calm is not empty. It is the strength of someone carrying the full weight of destiny. This episode makes one thing clear. Every disciple is standing at a crossroads. Their stories are no longer just about walking with Jesus. They are about choosing how much of themselves they are willing to surrender when the cost becomes unbearable. The first steps of those choices begin here, in Episode 1. If the story is the body of Episode 1, then its themes are the heartbeat. What makes this episode unforgettable is not only what happens, but what those moments mean. Every glance, every word, every pause carries a layer of symbolism that speaks louder than the dialogue itself. The most dominant theme is faith under pressure. The disciples are no longer in the safe early days of following Jesus. They are now in the shadow of destiny, where their faith is tested like gold in fire. When Peter speaks boldly, we feel both courage and fear beneath his words. When Thomas asks questions, we see the human struggle of believing without full understanding. The theme is simple but piercing. Faith is easy in times of peace, but true faith is proven when peace is gone. Another theme woven into the fabric of this episode is the cost of discipleship. The journey with Jesus is painted not as a path of comfort, but as a road of sacrifice. Small details hint at this. Disciples leaving behind families, their weariness on the road, the unspoken knowledge that safety is slipping further away with each step. Their burden is not physical alone. It is the emotional cost of knowing that following him could mean losing everything else. There is also a quiet but powerful thread of time and destiny. The way Jesus moves in this episode feels different. Measured, intentional, almost as if every step echoes eternity. His calmness is a reminder that he knows the ending even as the disciples stumble in confusion. Simple visual choices, like the lingering silence after his words or the framing of his figure against the horizon, turn into symbols of inevitability. It is not just another journey, it is the journey toward the cross. Even the smallest actions carry symbolism of light and shadow. When Jesus speaks hope, the camera lingers on his face, bathed in light. When the disciples argue, the tone shifts into darker shades, reminding us that doubt always casts a shadow over belief. These contrasts are not accidents. They are messages written in imagery, telling us that this season will be about more than what is seen. It will be about the unseen battle between faith and fear. And finally, the theme of silence, perhaps the most haunting of all. Episode 1 closes not with an explosion of words, but with stillness. That silence is not empty. It is heavy, like the pause before a great storm. It is a symbol of waiting, of destiny held at the edge of time, of hearts that must face what they cannot yet name. In the end, Episode 1 teaches us that this season is not simply about events. It is about meaning. Every choice the characters make will echo into eternity, and every moment is painted with themes that reach far beyond the screen. Episode 1 of Season 6 is not only built on story and character, it's sprinkled with moments that feel like whispers to the audience, quiet nods to the past, and subtle promises of what's to come. These are the moments that reward careful watching, the kind of details that turn a good episode into a masterpiece of storytelling. One of the most striking moments comes in a simple exchange between Jesus and the disciples. The words seem ordinary on the surface, but they echo earlier seasons. It's as if the writers are reminding us that nothing spoken in this series is wasted. Every phrase, every parable, ties back to a thread already woven into the story. For longtime fans, it feels like finding a hidden message written between the lines, a reminder that the journey has always been connected. There is also a quiet Easter egg in the way characters position themselves. In one scene, the disciples gather around Jesus, but the framing mirrors a famous painting of the Last Supper. It's not obvious, and it's not yet the final moment, but it's a symbolic foreshadowing that the story is marching closer to that table. It's the kind of visual that rewards sharp eyes and deep knowledge of both art and scripture. Another key moment lies in Mary Magdalene's silence. While others speak, she simply observes. The camera lingers on her expression long enough to suggest that she sees what others refuse to notice. This moment connects back to her earlier encounters with Jesus. Her quiet strength and insight have always set her apart. It's a soft Easter egg, reminding us that she has often been the one to understand before others did. And then there's a detail that might slip past most viewers: the use of light at the end of the episode. When Jesus walks forward, the light shifts, casting a glow that feels almost supernatural. It recalls the baptism scene from Season 1, where the heavens seem to break open. This parallel is not accidental. It's a silent link between the beginning of his ministry and the nearing of its climax. Even the music carries Easter eggs. Themes from earlier seasons weave into new melodies, subtle reminders of where we've been and where we are going. A few notes may sound familiar, sparking memory of past miracles. If Episode 1 is the spark, then the rest of Season 6 is the fire waiting to consume everything. The first chapter doesn't just tell us a story. It sets a stage, carefully placing each character in a position where their choices will determine everything that follows. Watching this episode feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. We can't see the bottom, but we know the leap is coming. One of the clearest signs of what's next lies in Peter's journey. His confidence is cracking, and the writers are not hiding it anymore. The bold fisherman who once declared he would never abandon Jesus now shows flickers of fear in his eyes. Fans who know the biblical account understand what's ahead. But the brilliance of this show is how it makes us feel the weight of it fresh, as if we don't already know the outcome. Every scene with Peter now is a ticking clock. Another path set in motion is Thomas and his doubt. Episode 1 paints his questions not as weakness but as humanity, questions that will one day define his testimony. The seeds planted here point to a future where his doubt becomes the very soil of unshakable faith. The writers are showing us that even those who hesitate can be transformed into pillars of belief. Mary Magdalene's arc hints at endurance and heartbreak. Her quiet presence in this episode feels almost prophetic. She has already endured darkness and redemption, but now her strength will be tested in the most painful way, watching suffering unfold before her eyes. Her silence foreshadows tears, and her tears will soon become testimony. And then there is Jesus himself. Episode 1 makes it clear that he is walking with purpose, every step heavy with the knowledge of what awaits. His calmness is not the absence of fear, but the acceptance of destiny. The speculation is not whether he will go to the cross. The story is moving there like a river to the sea. The true question is how his followers will respond when that moment arrives. The season ahead seems to promise division, betrayal, courage, and transformation. Will faith hold when the world collapses? Will love remain when hatred grows stronger? Episode 1 whispers these questions, and the answers will shape not just the lives of the characters, but the hearts of everyone watching. In the end, the speculation is not just about what's next for the disciples. It's about what's next for us as viewers. The Chosen is not just retelling history. It is asking us to stand in the shoes of those who followed, doubted, failed, and loved. Season 6 has opened the door. What waits on the other side is both heartbreaking and glorious. Season 6, Episode 1 does more than open a new chapter. It presses pause on our comfort and pulls us into the weight of destiny. Watching this episode feels like standing in the middle of a story that is both ancient and alive, both familiar and unpredictable. The brilliance of The Chosen has always been its ability to take what we already know and make us feel it in a way that feels brand new. Episode 1 continues that tradition, but with a sharper edge, as if reminding us, the road ahead is not safe, but it is necessary. What makes this episode unforgettable is not only what happens on screen, but what it awakens inside of us. We see Peter's boldness shaking, and we feel our own fears mirrored in him. We see Thomas wrestle with doubt, and we remember our own unanswered questions. We watch Mary's quiet strength, and we long for that same endurance in our own lives. Each character becomes more than a figure from history. They become a reflection of us, of humanity itself, with all its fragility and all its hope. The themes of faith, sacrifice, and destiny echo long after the episode ends. But the silence in that closing moment, might be the most powerful element of all. It forces us to sit in the tension, to ask ourselves what we would do if we stood in their place. Would we remain faithful when the storm breaks, or would we crumble under the weight of fear? That is the haunting beauty of this episode. It does not let us watch from a distance. It pulls us in and demands that we wrestle with the same questions. And now, the story belongs to us as much as it belongs to them. The Chosen has always been about connection, between the past and the present, between the screen and the audience. So I want to turn this moment over to you. What did you see in episode 1 that stood out most? Was it a look, a word, a silence that struck you? Do you think Peter's cracks are already showing? Or was Thomas the most relatable figure for you? Maybe you noticed a hidden detail, a symbol, an Easter egg I didn't mention. This is not just a breakdown. It's the beginning of a conversation. Share your thoughts, your theories, your hopes for the season in the comments below. Let's journey through this season together, moment by moment, detail by detail. Because if episode 1 has already left us this shaken, just imagine what the rest of season 6 will hold. So take a breath, hold on to your faith, and stay ready. The storm has only just begun. And so, as the screen fades to black and episode 1 ends, we are left in the quiet aftermath of something bigger than an episode. It feels like the first strike of a drum that will echo across the whole season. What we just witnessed is not only the continuation of a story, but the opening of a final act where every word, every choice, every silence matters. This is where the Chosen begins to walk us closer to the edge of history, closer to the cross, closer to the moment that changed everything. Episode 1 does not scream its message, it whispers it, and yet those whispers carry more weight than thunder. The disciples are no longer just followers. They are men and women standing at the crossroads of fear and faith, torn between the safety of the known and the cost of the eternal. Jesus, calm yet unshakable, leads them forward with eyes fixed on what is to come. And we, the audience, cannot help but feel the tension pulling tighter with every scene. This is the genius of The Chosen. It doesn't just show us events, it invites us to live inside them. The struggles of Peter, Thomas, Mary, and the others don't stay locked in the past. They reach across time and touch the parts of us still wrestling with faith, doubt, and courage today. Episode 1 is a mirror as much as it is a story. It asks us, where do we stand when the storm begins to rise? As we step away from this first episode, one thing is certain. The season ahead will not be gentle. It will challenge us, break us, and move us. But it will also remind us of hope, of redemption, and of love that does not collapse even under the weight of the cross. So here we are, standing on the edge of season 6 with hearts heavy, eyes open, and anticipation burning. If episode 1 has already shaken us this deeply, then the journey ahead promises to be unforgettable. Now it's your turn. Share your thoughts, your theories, your hopes for what's next. What moment in episode 1 struck you the hardest? And what do you believe awaits us in the episodes to come? Drop your voice into the conversation, because this story is not just meant to be watched. It's meant to be shared, wrestled with, and lived. Stay tuned, because this is only the beginning. The Chosen Season 6 has arrived, and the storm is here.